Hi, good afternoon. This is the December 15th edition of 2019's Nutrition News Network. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Brian Budd. So today we're going to be talking about some articles I went over in the last few days here that are very interesting. First topic we're going to be talking about is DHA Fish Oil, and for kids, especially boys, and how it helps them with ADHD. So a very good article about that. Reason why it's good is that it actually is very good for attention deficit disorder, which amongst kids is very high these days. So that's something we'll be talking about. So that's a live science article. Also, we're going to be talking about aerobic exercise and BDNF. BDNF stands for, it's short for brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Basically, aerobic training and consistency and increase in BDNF, similar to that of an antidepressant, which is very exciting news for people that are depressed and not doing very well. Also, we talked about, in our final story, is of course nutrients that protect the liver. Nutrients that protect the liver are very important, as we talk about that today and more here on the December 15th, 2019 edition of the Nutrition News Network. So today what we're going to be talking about first is DHA fish oil for boys, especially with children with the attention deficit disorder. So this is an article from Science Life, or Life Science. This is probably written probably about almost 4.5 years ago, but it's really interesting how it goes here. Boys with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder may benefit slightly from omega-3 fatty acid supplements, in a new study from the Netherlands suggests. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at this and see what this really means. The study involved 80 boys aged 18 to 14, about half of whom had been diagnosed with ADHD. The children consumed either a margarine enriched with omega-3 fatty acid diet or a regular margarine without omega-3s for 16 weeks. The enriched margarine containing 650 milligrams of DHA and 650 milligrams of EPA. EPA is a lanoconus, I don't know how you pronounce it, but I'll put it on the screen for you. But this is really, number one, the study is flawed. Okay, now the reason why it is, you only have 80 kids. It's not really that big that have ADHD, and they're saying it's a slight decrease. Now, if you have, I would say, if you have half of the kids that have it and you're taking 650 milligrams of DHA, that's not a high enough dose. It depends. Like for males, especially adults with ADHD, especially men, they probably need somewhere around 2 to 3 grams of DHA, and probably 1/4 of that requirement in EPA, because too much EPA actually thins the blood. It actually hurts DHA from actually entering the brain. So first of all, the study is flawed at first because it shows that they're giving too much EPA. It's basically 1-to-1 ratio. It should be a 4-to-1 ratio. Excuse me, in favor of DHA. And so if you're taking 1 gram of DHA fish oil, you should have a no more than 250 milligrams of EPA. That's what you want in this. In this study, and plus it's with margarine. Like, why would you give these people margarine with DHA? Margarine is a man-made fat. No wonder these kids have ADHD issues, is because they're given a margarine. Margarine is basically just soybean oil, or basically just man-made trans fats. And it's like, who do these people in Netherlands think they are? Anyways, so it goes on to show, at the end of the study, the boys who'd consumed the omega-3 supplements saw a reduction in their attentions problem as rated by their parents, compared to those who did not consume the supplement. Improvements in attention were seen in both children and with and without ADHD. Well, yeah, it'll help with or without ADHD. But the effect was greatest in those with ADHD, especially boys. Yes, I hate to say it, men, but men have a higher incidence of ADHD for one very simple fact. Number one, men take longer to develop the prefrontal cortex. Women are more mature in that respect. That's not being a man-hater, that's biologics. So a man's prefrontal cortex doesn't fully develop until his mid-20s. So that's why you see a lot of kids having a lot of anger issues and problems, and they have all these, they're horny all the time, and they have teen pregnancies because they don't have the prefrontal cortex to know sometimes that that's not a good thing. That can have those effects because they're not prepared for that type of environment. And plus, too, they don't have the protective estrogen in the brain that women do. That's why men tend to live shorter lives than women do because of that fact. And plus, too, because men also take on riskier professions. Not saying women aren't strong. I'm just saying that that's just the statistics of it. But irregardless, the study was funded by University or Unilever Research and Development. So this is a company that's doing this, but it's really not a big study. I mean, a study is double blind. 20 years, 10,000 participants. This really doesn't really show anything. So what's the outtake from it? But even with the margarine crappy diet that these kids were fed, their still attention problems went down 21%, which is still amazing considering they had a crappy oil instead of just like butter or ghee. They had that. So what happens is these kids are actually having better attention now. If you give these kids, they cut the oils out of it and actually just have butter and some eggs and a high protein breakfast and cut back on the sugar and increase the DHA, you'll see a definite turnaround in the amount of overactive behavior from these kids in the sense of, when they're eating, they spill pop all over the place or they just act out. Any of you guys or girls ever out there try to babysit your kid or babysit a kid? Give them this is bad, but what I like to call it is the gummy worm test. Give them a gummy worm with all that dies and see how they react 30 minutes later. You'll see a definite correlation on how they react a half hour later. It's pretty amazing. So I would say that it's important with DHA to be consumed in that ratio 4-to-1 instead of 1-to-1. Also, too, for ADHD, cut back on the sugar. I know when I eat sugar, I am all over the place. When I cut out sugar, I seem to more focused, much better able to do things, get things done. But some people say, well, then you're too boring. But, variety is the spice of life. So I would say that that's a big thing when it comes to ADHD with kids, especially cutting the sugar out, even if you can't do the DHA. But that's a good article. All right, so next article we're going to talk about now is aerobic exercise and BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factor. Now, this I love because aerobic exercise is basically miracle grow for your brain. This is from psychologytoday.com. Aerobic exercise, weightlifting is good too, don't get me wrong, especially as you age, you get in your 30s, your 40s, and 50s because muscles tend to waste away. So when they tend to waste away, what happens is people are more adept to just sitting on the couch, kind of just doing what they need to get by, things like that. But this is a great article. It says this is why aerobic exercise is miracle grow for the brain. So basically it states that aerobic exercise increases BDNF. BDNF is brain-derived neurotropic factor. It reduces dementia and improves cognition. I mean, I can tell you right now, if I don't go to the gym for 3 days, I'm a little cranky, and to be quite frank, my brain doesn't work as fast. That's just me. So basically it says, what makes exercise the miracle grow? Brain-derived neurotropic factor is a protein released during aerobic exercise that acts like a neuron fertilizer. BDNF promotes the neurogenesis, the growth of new neurons. Whoo, all right. As well as increased functional connectivity between brain regions via neuroplasticity. A decade ago, when it was published at the Athlete's Way, St. Martin's Press, the idea of BDNF stimulating neurogenesis in the brain was a revolutionary concept. Because, people thought that, or scientists thought that brain-derived neurotropic, you basically your brain's fixed. Once you turn 30 years old, that's it. This is who you are. That's not the case. With science now and with nanotech, with genetics and genetic testing and things like that, there's so many things that we don't even know about, like leptin and all sorts of other things, that it's a whole wild, wild west universe out there now with genetic science and everything. It's really cool to look at because there's some things you really can do to extend your lifespan. So it goes on to say that exercise has been proven to promote neurogenesis by increasing BDNF and lowering cortisol. It does increase cortisol, but once the cortisol levels go down, the ability to handle stress goes up with the exercise. And that's where I call about the relaxation reserves. So basically in 2013, it shows that Harvard researchers honed in on a specific molecule released during the endurance exercise that improves cognition and protects the brain against degeneration. The study is called Exercise Induces Hippocampal BDNF. And this appeared in the journal Cell of Metabolism. Through the experiences conducted on mice, the investigators of the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute and the Harvard Medical School found that a molecule called FDNC5 and its byproduct, irisin, become elevated in brain through endurance exercise. Basically, it shows that brains with low irisin levels have low levels of BDNF. That could be just from a traumatic childhood. That could be from just bad things in your diet. That could just be you weren't breastfed. If you look at the cc's of the brain of mice that are actually breastfed, they're actually almost 25% larger than the brains of mice that weren't breastfed. And those are some studies you can go over. Also, in February 2016, studies shows that physical exercise increases adult hippocampal neurogenesis in male rats provided in aerobic sustained exercise. Basically, the structure of the connectivity of brain is brought to you by that. And then this week, of course, researchers from New York University, Langone Medical Center, and Manhattan announced some exciting breakthroughs that help better explain why sustained aerobic exercise benefits the mammalian brain on a molecular level. And it just does. Also, too, they say it's a similarity to an antidepressant. Antidepressants work in a similar way by increasing BDNF, but that's a different story for a different time. It's a little bit long to explain, but it's kind of an insidious way it actually increases BDNF. It's like a credit card. Antidepressants are a credit card with a very high interest rate. Sooner or later, you're going to have to pay off those effects. But that's something I'm going to go into in a different NNN podcast down the road where I can explain it for a little bit longer because it takes a little bit more to explain something like that. But it increases BDNF in that way over 6 to 8 weeks, and that's the same way like an antidepressant works. So it's kind of the same thing, but the antidepressants aren't necessarily bad. I'm not knocking them. If you're on them, don't stop them. But you want to make sure that you're doing that to that cause, so that way you don't have to look at these studies and actually go over them and do what is necessary to get through what it is that you're ailing you. But exercise is very important for BDNF structure. So BDNF, low BDNF, addiction, you're watching a lot of TV, mindless activities, not really working on your goals, your dreams, your mission, your drive, and your purpose, especially if you're a man. Female problems are, very heavy menstrual cycles, moodiness, lethargy, things like that. So that was a little bit about BDNF and aerobic exercise. So our last article brings us to is called Nutrients to Protect the Liver. So we're going over the holiday season. And what I like to do is actually go over some things that would help protect the liver. Because people drink, they have a lot of food. But there's some nutrients that would help. And I'm going to go over 4 nutrients. So number 1, the first one is milk thistle or silymarin. Silymarin is very good for cleaning the liver and actually detoxifying the liver. It's very good for alcoholic cirrhosis. It doesn't prevent it, but it actually helps with the cleaning out of the liver. Another nutrient is zinc. Zinc is very important for the protective area of the liver. Also, zinc is very important for the liver to clean out toxins. And then there's choline, which is very important. Choline is a component in eggs or any kind of animal meat, but it's very high in eggs. Choline is not only good for your liver for one reason, because it does clean it out, but it's also good for your brain and liver in the way that it actually acts like a slippery sponge by getting fat out of the liver. So people that are overweight or obese start exercising, eating some more choline-rich diets, they can lose a lot more liver fat. Like say, if you're losing 10% of your weight, you might have lost 40% liver fat because you are taking these supplements that might help you, but it's not guaranteed. It's just, kind of a sliding scale. Also, N-acetylcysteine. This is the one I want to kind of talk about today. N-acetylcysteine is NAC for short. NSC has something for everyone. It's a great general supplement to protect your cells from stress and slow down aging. It's well worth adding to your supplement stack. So it goes into here, NAC is very good for protecting the liver. I mean, that's number one. It stops cravings and addictions because it dampens. Sorry, there's a ambulance right by me. So, and I live in Broadview Heights, so you think it'd be a great neighborhood, but it's probably all the old people. That's gonna be me pretty soon. But anyways, NAC is a powerful way to get rid of every addicted substance. So what it does, it dampens down the dopamine reward pathways. So when you have a reward pathway, like you need a need for food or cigarettes or pornography or drugs, alcohol. So what it does is hamp down the glutamate bases of the brain, increases the antioxidant availability of the cells. It's also good for fertility for men and women. Especially in men, it actually decreases the amount of DHT, which is good for obviously lowering the amount of recycled testosterone going back into the system and not even being bound to this. Instead of being bound to sexual hormone bind globulin, it's actually going to the testosterone to give you that edge that you need. Of course, zinc followed up by that. I can tell you for sure, if you want to conceive a child, if you have no zinc or you're zinc deficient, you will not have a baby. That is guaranteed. Zinc is needed for a baby, iodine, and all that stuff, vitamin C, but no zinc, no baby. But like I said, NAC is very good for helping with fertility. It's also good for the addiction pathways because it actually tames it down. It doesn't cure you. You still have to mindfully take a look at it. So I found that to be very interesting, especially in methamphetamines, gambling, and in shopping as well. It also is good for inflammation and aging. OCD it's good for because it calms down the amygdala, like we talked in the last, calms down the amygdala to where the prefrontal kind of acts as the governor. That's what you need, is as the governor. So, I mean, doses are anywhere between 600 milligrams and 24 milligrams. Obviously, I'm not a doctor, I can't tell you, but I would say that I take 600 milligrams 2 to 3 times a day when I can for a few months just to get that benefit. So NAC is very good for protecting the liver. Obviously, drinking a lot of water is good for the liver. But, with these articles today, so we've gone over these articles. What I would suggest is if you do like my videos, go ahead and click subscribe at the bottom here. And I will talk to you soon. Thank you for your time.
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This show or products appearing on the show are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Nutrition News Network. All rights reserved. Copyright 2019.